Welcome, everyone, to another installment of our full moon series. And Erik Roth here with Kaylin Castell at My Star Alchemy. And today we're going to be talking about the super full moon in Taurus, which takes place on November 5th, 2025, celebrating the gifts of sacred pleasure. So,
Oh,
welcome all, and thank you for watching this.
yeah, and
And
sacred
go
pleasure.
ahead.
So good. I mean, I think that's something we don't necessarily uh as a culture haven't always really appreciated. That pleasure can be sacred. It's not
Yes,
necessarily sinful.
exactly. Yeah, it's sort of the antithesis of like the more fundamentalism around like you got to be controlled over everything. You can't cross the lines. Whatever you do that's outside in the light, especially around the feminine, like you can't go into that direction because
Right.
that's against whatever belief system that you can pick and choose and
Right.
insert A into
Exactly.
B.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we're moving away from that. And this full moon is
we
going
are.
to it'll help catapult us even further away.
Yes. Go ahead,
So we
Cam.
have this idea of pleasure, and I think of pleasure as also sensuality, what we're experiencing physically in our body through our senses. And the pleasure and sensuality of Taurus has been not as celebrated as it could be. So we're hoping that this inspires more of that. But when we celebrate and enjoy life's physical pleasures, so that can include loving relationships, good food, comfortable surroundings, activities that engage the senses. And that could be anything that be different for different people. But more of these experiences find their way to us as we step into the sacred pleasure paradigm. So I'll just say that some years ago, I was with one of my priestess sisters, and we recognized that we've been living in a pain paradigm, that our greatest teachings came from pain. And we decided we wanted to have our greatest teachings come from pleasure. And that not that pain still isn't going to have its role, because it will. And not that pleasure hasn't always had its role, because it kind of has, but it was diminished. So, but how do we celebrate more and how do we really encourage this pleasure paradigm? Like, what is the pleasure of life? And as long as it's not harming anyone, then, that's what we're here for, is really to experience the pleasure of being human and in a body and having these experiences. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is part of what makes us human. It's part of how we connect with each other and connect with the earth. And so to deny that part of ourselves is to kind of cut off, well, it's like cutting off a limb, it
yeah,
really is.
yeah, it's like a part of us is missing if we don't have that ability or we don't have that recognition of how important it is to cultivate and celebrate pleasure. So here we are
Absolutely.
at the Taurus full moon, having an opportunity to feel into that even more and find ways that we can activate that more in our own lives.
Yes, yes. Um, yeah, so shall I?
Uh,
Um, unless you're go for it. Why don't you go for it?
Well, a Taurus full moon celebrates the beauty of life here on Earth. And the thing is that we've been given the gift of this life, and it doesn't always feel like a gift because sometimes it's pretty challenging. But if we can recognize that and remember that we have been given this gift, so at a Taurus full moon is a really great time to slow down and appreciate the simple pleasures of life. And that can include being with family and friends and community, things that bring us a sense of comfort and security. That's something that Taurus can take great pleasure in, is really good at savoring. Like, how do we savor the moment? How do we stay present in the moment? This is part of the Taurian mysteries. And so, cultivating pleasure can come from lying on the earth, sitting with a tree, holding a stone in your hand, or placing it on your body, and just being with that and just feeling the pleasure of the energy of that stone. Engaging in ceremony underneath either a daylight sky or a night sky, especially the night sky when the moon is rising. That would be the like ideal time. and feeling gratitude and deep appreciation for the gift of this life. So these are just a few things. These are some ideas. Putting your bare feet on the ground is another great way to get grounded and connected. And it just depends on what your weather's like and, you know, if it works for you to be able to do that. And then intimacy and emotional comfort. So this is a time for emotional, really nurturing emotional well-being with yourself and significant other or others. It doesn't have to be a other. It could be more than one other, like family, friends, kids, you know,
Mhm.
whoever that might be. And having a time to really feel the um, experience of being safe and content in the moment. Because I think we tend to rush around and like from one thing to the next, and I tend to do that myself. I've got a lot of fire on my chart, so so slowing down, taking the moment. Sometimes Peter, my husband, will say to me, he'll give me a compliment, and then I rush off to the next thing, and he's like, "Could you just take a minute and receive that?" I'm getting better at it. He's been in Mars and Taurus, so he knows what he's talking about. Anyway, so and then consider allowing pleasurable, peaceful energy to show you how to more deeply and completely appreciate your home here on Earth and the gifts we're given every day. So that just taking time to savor and enjoy and be with and not be rushing off to the next thing or thinking about, oh, I have to get this done, I have to get that done, or whatever that might be. So that's some of the things that we can do. So this is how we find like simplicity can be a way of experiencing pleasure. So finding pleasure in the simplicity of life and having those simple moments of just being present.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I totally agree with what you're sh sharing here, and our deeper connection with the earth and the simplicity of just being with earth and how it can ground us into ourselves and even balance us in ways that rushing around accomplishing stuff, which also can help, but may not fully be balanced in the same way as being able to kind of like sit down and or lay down and just simply be.
Yes.
Yeah. But no offense to fire. I've got a lot of fire on my chart too,
I
so
do too. I know.
I understand.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. In
Well,
fact, just after this, I've got to go and accomplish a few errands. I'll just say
right.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, a perigee supermoon. So yeah, let's look at the chart, Caitlin. What do you think?
Well, so many things here. One of the things I've been doing is tracking Pallas Athena. We had somebody involved in doing some classes with us years ago who really got into Pallas Athena, and so she wound up passing from this life to the next back in 2023, I think it is now. But so I did a lot of work with her around that, and then somebody else has stepped in to continue that. And one of the things we've been looking at is how Pallas Athena and Chariklo have been conjunct twice, and they're going to be conjunct a third time in um, December. And they both just stationed direct at the time of this. Pallas did it earlier in October, and then Chariklo does it towards the end of October. So Chariklo is the wife of Chiron. So she
Hmm.
has her own healing abilities, and hers are more of a feminine nature of like, how do we heal the heart? How do we heal our emotions? How do we heal the things that, that may upset us or have distracted us or whatever. So it's about being present and from a feeling perspective and not just from a physical, like how do you, what herbs do you use or whatever it might be. So that she really focuses a lot on that. And then Pallas Athena, who is was born out of Zeus's head, so she is the aspect of the feminine that tends to be more mental. And in Aquarius, of course, she's very visionary and expanding her vision and so on. But Pallas Athena and Chariklo are both square the sun and the moon at this full moon. So it's pretty amazing that they're being featured here, like in the full moon energy, and perhaps this is just a thought that I have is that part of this is um, about healing the aspects of the monkey mind. The mind that's just like all over the place and thinking about things all the time and doesn't know how to settle down and just be. So our monkey mind can keep us distracted and keep us from experiencing greater pleasure of the
Mm,
beingness that we have the opportunity to cultivate, especially at this full moon. So that's pretty amazing. Then the other thing is that Neptune has just moved back into Pisces. It's at 29 degrees Pisces. Saturn's went back earlier in September, I think, early September. And so, yeah, they're hanging out there, and they'll be going direct in 2026 and coming together at that exact zero Aries point we've been talking about. So they're kind of present at this full moon as well. And then we're going to talk about this more later, but just to say that the moon is in alignment with a star called Minkar in the constellation of Cetus, the whale. More on that to come. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting that that forms that T square right here with I haven't really been paying attention to Pallas Athena in recent months, but obviously that certainly plays a role in Chariklo. I haven't really studied that, but I've there have been people that have certainly talked about that centaur and
It's not
some
it's
of
not
its
my
importance.
expertise for sure, but it's definitely it's just something that's been on my radar since I've been tracking Pallas Athena and saw that she was also connecting and the last exact conjunction coming up in December. Then the other thing I forgot to mention is that Uranus and Mars are exactly opposite each other, and Sedna's in that mix too, and Mercury's not too far away. So what unpredictable, unexpected events could be coming along to awaken us to a greater awareness of whatever needs to be awakened at this time?
Right, right, absolutely. And that's what this full moon's all about. Oh, and Saturn moved in back into Pisces on September 1st,
Yeah.
and Neptune happens on the 22nd of October. So for those that are watching this after that date,
It's already
you get
happened.
some dates, some other dates here that have already happened. Yeah. As of
Yeah.
this recording, hasn't
But if
happened
you're
yet.
watching it before that date, it hasn't moved back yet.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So yes, Uranus returns to Taurus, November 7th. Oh yeah. So yeah, this is definitely in connection with what the full moon is about. What would you like me to share, or would you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, this has been like Uranus. This will be Uranus's last swing through retrograde loop through Taurus, and so the full moon is like helping to highlight this a bit. And so then when Uranus moves in on November 7th, it's going to bring up one last sort of roll through our own, reflect on ourselves over the last 7 years of Uranus being in Taurus. So, it's the planet revolution, disruption, innovation. First entered Taurus in 2018 and is leaving for the last time on April 25th of 2026. And this is a combination, Uranus and Taurus, a combination of revolutionary, unpredictable energy that challenges the Taurus desire for stability, tradition, and material comfort. At the November cross quarter, which is, when the sun gets to 15 degrees Scorpio, that's the official astrological cross quarter. Now, it's tied in to Samhain, Dia de los Muertos. You get the Day of the Saints, All Saints Day. All of that is connected into this into this time, this in-between period of the equinox and the solstice. And so I just want to put that information out there for people. So as this cross quarter Uranus returning to Taurus, is enhancing the unexpected changes available to us in creating a new Earth reality, a new experience in the Garden of Abundance, Eden. So that's basically it's a celebration of the bounty of Earth, of what Earth has given to humanity, and for us to bathe in that, for us to enjoy that energy and that spirit. And I think within this super technological world, that there isn't as much of that going on as there once was, many thousands of years ago. So we take time to connect to the earth and remember what Uranus supports, a more liberated way of living, so we can free to enjoy a greater sense of sacred pleasure. I think of the example of, now this is certainly related in before this video, we briefly talked about the pandemic, with the disruption of things, and the social distancing. But there was also this other part of this where it disrupted the flow of trade, of goods, material goods, and what we were used to receiving. It was like, and we're back into that space where whatever we can dial up on our mobile devices and computers, we can have very, very quickly. Um, and more so than we ever have before. But in that time period, in the early days, there was shortages of different goods, especially like toilet paper was the most famous, I think, of all of them, and paper towels, I think, to some extent. So you think about the physical comforts and pleasures that you're used to having, and suddenly that taken away. Uranus is a big disruptor. So it's like showing us, like, hey, what happens if this goes on? What happens to you? What happens to your relationship to the earth? And at the same time, with the less economic activity that was taking place, the air was cleaner, the water was cleaner, there was more beauty of the earth that was shining brightly. So this is like this Taurus full moon is for us to kind of connect into that energy, and realize the sacredness of that, in our life. And so I love that you brought in Uranus and Taurus here.
Yeah, and the abundance that the earth has, and that if we're being wise in how we use those resources, there's more than enough for everyone. But we tend to live in a scarcity consciousness that says there's only so much and I have to get what's mine. And if that hurts other people, oh well, as long as I can survive. And that is the shadow side, I think, of the Taurian mysteries. It's like I have to have enough so I can be comfortable, I can, or live lavishly or whatever it might be. Anyway, so
Right.
but if we were living in harmony with the earth, and really understanding how to use her resources in the best ways possible, and so there it's regenerative, it's regenerating itself, then we wouldn't have the the experience of not having enough.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And so this like representation of this garden, and the harvesting of the fruits, the flowers, the herbs, I mean, that really is our relationship with this earth. One of the symbols of that, be able to really have that harmony, and earth replenishes each and every time, and for us to be able to have that connection, and not just agriculturally, obviously done with farming, but it's more mechanized. So this is a more organic, earthy, Tauran type of experience here.
Yeah, beautiful.
Um, all right. So yes, we've got some tables for you to think about, like with the moon set, moon rise, and when you can see it in your neck of the woods.
So on the day of the full moon, the full moon rises at 5:29 p.m. And that also depends on your horizon line, because I have mountains in my east, so it comes up later. It's usually a half hour later than what they say, uh, depending on where it's rising up on the mountain. So it's not precise, but it's like the idea being that you can kind of guess with with that sense. And what's interesting is that on November 5th, the sunset is also at 5:29 p.m. So that means
Wow.
that the sun is setting as the moon is rising, and that's really what a full moon is. It's like they're exactly opposite each other. Now full moon rises, the full moon can actually happen at different times of the day, so it's not always so precisely that the sun is setting while the moon is rising, but that's pretty exciting. That we
Yeah,
have,
it's rare for us to be able to experience that.
yeah. Sometimes we can have it within a few minutes, but it's not usually this precise. Anyway, the
Right.
exact full moon is at 6:19 a.m. Mountain Time on November 5th. So, but it's still in that, very full phase as we get towards the end of the day and the moon's going to rise.
Yeah, you'll be able to see, we'll all be able to see full, if there's no clouds, the full moon for about a 3 day period, and the fifth being the closest one, and it'll be the brightest. Um, and so it's definitely worth connecting into, energetically too. I once spent a night in the desert out there, uh, over
In
15 year,
Arizona?
yes, down where you are, neck of the woods, south of Tucson, on Gail's property there, in uh Sahuarita, between Grass Valley and Tucson. Um, and I did it at the equinox, at the full moon, and I think it was a super full moon at that time. I'll have to go back and look. But seeing it rise while the sun was setting, it wasn't as exact as this, but then the experience and then stay up all most of the night and then be up for the sun to rise and then the moon to set. Also, 12-ish hours later, because it was equinox.
Right.
So it was in that space. Like, if somebody to do it that time, it's worth doing because you get to really experience the power of both the sun and the moon and the sky during that time. Like, what does that really represent energetically, spiritually, and metaphysically for us as human beings, and to be able to kind of be in that space and be under the moonlight like that?
I
I think it's
appreciate
really profound.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying this. I think it's something, if you haven't ever done it, it's definitely worth doing. Not sure November's the best time of year, depending on where you live, but
Okay. Yeah.
but well, the thing
Yeah.
is that the moon set on November 5, just before, well, just after the exact um, full moon, is at 6:55 a.m. A.m. It's the moon is setting, and at 6:44 a.m. the sun is rising on November 5th. So that's just a 10-minute difference. So you could also have a similar experience for the moon set and the sunrise, if you're into
That's
that.
true. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I didn't check the tables before this video, so it's pretty cool that I'll depending on, I mean, it's the time of year up here where I live in Oregon, where we can have a tendency to have more clouds and potential rain when we get into the mid to late fall. We've already had some in October here. And so, yeah, we'll see. But for those that are out that willing to brave the night, whether to stay out or just go out and watch for a few minutes, it's definitely worth seeing. And those full moons are just spectacular.
Yeah. So, and then,
And
yeah,
yeah,
this is called they call it a super moon because it's extra big, because it's closest to the Earth. So you can see in this image, there's the Earth, and sometimes the moon is way far out from where the Earth is at a full moon, and it's always when the moon is opposite, and then opposite the sun, and then sometimes it's way close in, and when it's way close in, it's much bigger. It looks 30% bigger, brighter, and 14% bigger than a regular full moon. And when it's rising, you can really see it's like spectacular to see. So if you get a chance to see the moon rise on November 5th, or even the day before or after, it's still going to be pretty close and still pretty big and amazing and still really looking full. So the thing about a perigee, meaning closest to the Earth, full moon, is that it has a greater impact on the tectonic plates of the Earth, and it affects the high tides are higher, and the weather patterns are can be more crazy at that time. There tends to be more earthquakes and things that can happen around a full moon that is close to the Earth. And this is the second full moon, the closest one of 2025, and really of this series of what is called super moons, or I like to call them perigee full moons. Uh, but this is another factor that's going to amp up the energy of this full moon and makes it even more powerful to connect in with and tune into.
Yeah, it's you don't realize how bright the moon is until it's, you go outside the city and a super full moon like this, a perigee moon, you're you really you don't need any flashlights. It's it's
It's bright.
it really, yeah, it really stands out. Like it's not obviously nowhere near as bright as the sun, of course, but it's reflecting the sun's light, and you could just be out there and like, okay, I can. As soon as your eyes adjust, you can really see where you need to go. Yeah, and with the tides, they call them king tides when when it's like the some usually it's when it's a new moon or full moon, and especially in it's the super stage or the perigee stage, it's even can be even more dramatic. And
Yeah.
if it just happens to be a storm that's coming in, kind of pushing the ocean a little bit more, oh, you can like that's just stay away from the beach at that
Right.
time. That's not a
Stay
good
at a
time to
safe
go and
distance. Yeah, stay at a safe distance.
frolic in the sands. Um, that's thank you. Yeah, speaking of this, so this is something when you're out there, liminal space, which is sort of this in-between realm, it kind of so the stands for like the almost like the absence of something there. And liminal space, like in this space of shadows and lunar shadows, I think of that as that not emptiness is in like there's really nothing there, but sort of like this sense of more surreal energy that you're a part of. So it is definitely a time of magic, when the moon is closer, and the veil, or when we are closer to the veil between worlds, and shadows cast by the moon help to create that liminal space in the physical and metaphysical. So, we're talking about the soma energy, picking up that lunar energy and bathing under the moon's light to absorb more of that lunar energy, which could be really, really healing and healthy for you as well. Um, so the moon, like in the practice that Kayla and I work with astrologically, it's symbolic of of kind of our lineage, our origin story, and our to some degree our soul's depth. And the moon can also help open us up to our deeper parts as we walk and are present with the lunar energy. So there's definitely a really strong magical mystical quality to this that you can, without the distractions of, all the things that are going on, you to sit with the moon, to be with the moon, to be with and be with nature too at the same time. There could be some shifting that can go on within.
In the Hindu tradition, they refer to moonlight as a way to experience soma, a healing elixir, light energy, etc. So spending time under the full moon was often very much encouraged by that culture, and the understanding that there was something that was very healing to the body. So that's just one cultural perspective on connecting with the moon and the full moon light.
Yeah,
There's others,
yeah.
I'm
Thank you. What
yeah.
was that?
I said there's others, I'm sure.
Yes,
No,
yes.
'cause other
And
cultures
of course,
are celebrating the moon. Yeah.
Right. I mean, the moon has played such a powerful role in the human psyche since we've been walking on this planet for, hundreds of thousands of years, and maybe even longer than that. So this peers into a really deep part of us, and having the moon a bit closer gives us greater uh, energetic connection with it, I feel.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so here's the sky. We got a piece of this earlier when we were showing it. It shows you another slide here, but you can see the full moon here in the center, just below the Ram constellation, and the stars of Hamal and Sheraton. But at this would be I believe this is early morning of November 5th, before it sets, and you really see and capture that there it is between Menkar, which is the mouth of the whale, Cetus, the whale, which I'm going to talk about here in a moment. And you can see the Pleiades is going to really, I mean, the moon's going to be super bright, but I think we'll still be able to see Pleiades. I mean, it's far enough away, about 15 degrees or so. Yeah, 17 degrees or so. So we should be able to see Pleiades fairly well, especially under, outside of light pollution there. So, you can really capture, you go out under the night sky like this that evening, it's just going to be gorgeous and magically powerful.
Definitely Aldebaran will be visible.
Yes, right up here. Yeah, you'll be
Yeah.
able to see that. And of course, this is the time of year where, the Sacred Hoop of Stars is going to be really, it's some of that, a lot of that's off the screen here. You do see part of Orion and the bull present here, but there's most of that Sacred Hoop is off the screen above it. And it's just going to be, might just blow you away, actually, how powerful it is.
Yeah, beautiful.
Um, so Menkar, it's at 15 degrees, 27 minutes Taurus. That's only 2 degrees away from the full moon, which is at 1322 Taurus. And Menkar means the nose in Arabic. The star has a broader symbolism around the entire face and the mouth of Cetus as well. And the most recognized story around, which Kaylin, you've mentioned, of course, a number of times over the years, the story of Jonas and the whale, in the book of Jonah. And Jonah's thrown overboard by his fellow sailors in order to calm a storm. And some of that has to do with God supposedly ordering things to happen. Um, and so then eventually Jonah is then swallowed by a huge sea creature. He's in the belly of a whale for 3 days and 3 nights before he repents, and essentially is, um, almost like he's having to follow, like they call it God's orders, but maybe his higher self, maybe checking in there and telling him what he needs to do. So it's kind of an underworld journey. And the 3 days and 3 nights, I think of that, certainly as like the full moon, or when the sun is at a standstill, you get that same energy there. And so the sea creature vomits, it regurgitates him, and then he can go out and fulfill his destiny, which has to do with this warning of some disaster that's impending in ancient Babylon, I think, somewhere in that region, ancient the Mesopotamian area. But there's other older stories that are connected with the epic of Gilgamesh and his search for eternal life, and going under the water to grab that special herb, and Jason and the Argonauts as well. So there are that this isn't the Chona and the whale story is the most recognized one, but there are more also older stories that were taken from and or inspired by, and that this particular constellation has is the as above so below kind of there, and so we can see this full moon just above. It's like think of it as the sailors up there, and wanting to drop it down into the waters where Benkar and Cetus are, and it might swallow the moon up later on.
That's
So,
definitely one way to look at it. Also, to think about this, it's like if in some way we are not aligned with our destiny, our divine destiny, why we're here, why we chose to be here, and you could say God or you could say higher self or however you want to describe that. But this may be a full moon that is about uh, putting a light on that and then being, hopefully getting you back on track with what is really yours to do, yours to be, yours to experience and express in this reality. I feel like that's this star being with this full moon is adding to our understanding of what's possible with this full moon energy.
yeah, absolutely. And you can see like this, like in this, let me get a better image here. Um, there's the celestial equator here, on the line that's on the left. And then the ecliptic, the path of the planets, the sun is on the right. And so the moon is currently on the ecliptic during this full moon stage. And so like it's like the whale is peeking up above the horizon, the equator, and which can represent the ocean. You know, you got Eridanus in here, the great river, and you got the fish, just to below the moon. So you've got all these aquatic creatures, and so this which are jumping out of the water, and then Menkar and Cetus the whales is just kind of pushing up just a little bit above the water line. And so it's just fascinating. I love that. It's like maybe it's reaching for that higher level of itself, like as a constellation symbolic of that. And I love you sharing. It's like, yeah, if we keep resisting our destiny, what are we doing?
Might
Why are
get
we
swallowed
here?
by a whale.
You might get swallowed by a whale, and that wouldn't be good. And I think it's kind of an underworld journey. I mean, it's kind of a space you go into yourself. There's a moment where you got to face your truth and face yourself in the mirror and realize who you are, realize what you're here to be, and this is that full moon it activates the star Menkar and brings that not just the mythology, but the way through on a more spiritual path for ourselves.
And it could be also connected to the pleasure of fulfilling our divine destiny because it is
And
in the Taurus realm. And since Menkaus
yes,
is around 15 degrees of Taurus, it's at the cross quarter that's also known as Beltane, but that's the between, the cross quarter between two seasons as well. So we have the sun coming up to the cross quarter, we have the moon at the cross quarter. Oh, we have the sun at the cross quarter and the moon at the other cross quarter. They're like opposite each other at the and activating those cross quarter points when the veils between the worlds are thin and that we can access other realms and dimensions more easily. So this is very powerful.
yes, yeah, absolutely. Um, okay. Let's go to the nakshatra.
All right. So this is the Bharani Nakshatra, and you can see that it's most of it's overlaying the constellation of the Ram, and it's getting towards the end of that nakshatra. The moon is getting ready to move out of that nakshatra, but again, the nakshatras are these what they would perceive as the moon moving through an area of the sky over a day and a night. So like 13 degrees and some minutes. I forget the exact number. But that's how they divided up the sky was that they would see the moon in certain places and then they recognized that there were 27, sometimes 28, but because it's 27.3 days for the moon to come back to an exact starting place. And so the nakshatras they saw as having a specific meaning that we can add to our understanding of what this full moon is about. So let's go to the next slide. So this nakshatra is from 7 degrees Taurus to 20 degrees Taurus and minutes. And the nakshatra, you can see they draw the stars a little bit differently than we might draw them or think of them, but it is symbolizing the yoni that gives birth to life, emphasizing the duality of creation and destruction, life, or death and rebirth, however you want to talk about that. And it's reminding us of the wisdom in embracing the cycles of transformation. So resistance is futile. You can maybe drag things out a little longer if you keep resisting. Uh, but eventually, I think that that our higher self and whatever it is that we came for has the final say. Anyway, so this nakshatra
Yeah.
is also known for renewal, purification, rebirth, and transformation of spirit. It's linked with Venus and Mars, which is interesting because it's got a sacred union aspect that's connected to it. The deity is Yama, Lord of Death, Dharma, and Discipline, and the animal is elephant. I don't really quite get the elephant imagery, but that's what the uh, Vedic perspective talks about. And so it's about action that inspires creation and the ethical discipline that supports living in harmony with universal law. So again, and I think about like when Jonah was running away from what he was being told he needed to go do, and he hops on a boat and tries to get away, and then it creates this huge storm out on the ocean, and then the sailors are like, "You're the problem," and they toss him overboard.
Yeah.
And he winds up having to go do it anyway. So he was in resistance. He was like, "No, no, no, I'm not doing that." But he wound up having to do it. So we just need to remember, and if there's things that are happening in our life that aren't working out, maybe it's time to let them go. So at this full moon could be a really good time to do that. So this nakshatra also has to do with resilience, gentle strength, and the capacity for greatness, leadership, and overcoming obstacles. So these are some of the energies that are also associated with this Taurus full moon.
Well, the elephant is tends to be in a lot of things with the Vedics because of, well, it's a definitely a really powerful animal for in that region of the planet, along to some degree, obviously with Africa, but you find it in some of their imagery with their gods and goddesses, and so I don't know why specifically it's with this particular nakshatra. May I have to go and look at like did they look at this originally as a ram or it was I wonder if they had an elephant constellation at some point in their
Yeah.
history.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there was a story that I read about it that I'm not remembering right now about why it was the elephant, but yeah, I even reading that, I was like, I'm not sure I totally get that. But you know what the thing is that what is perceived and attention placed on becomes the reality, becomes the truth of the reality that we're creating or co-creating. So yeah,
Hmm.
and I love the elephants and Ganesha, who's the remover of obstacles. So it is interesting that the it is about overcoming obstacles.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, so then we have the Sabian symbol of this particular full moon, and it's a 14 Taurus. So the symbol is on the beach. The children play while shellfish grope at the edge of the water. So the key words include being self-sufficient, looking at after one's own affairs, a scene of at-one-ment with all forms of life, having a live and let live attitude, peripheral vision, returning to the source, feeling safe in a natural environment, playing alongside nature, building sandcastles, playing in pools and baths, buckets and spades, sun protection, interacting without really interacting, swimming, sand, wind, and sea. So a lot of the coastal ocean sand type of imagery there. But taking from this, it really relates to um, both our surface and the deeper connection with source and all that is. So life is celebrated and while also going about its business. So it's like being able to honor life doing what it's doing but also participating in it. It's like this co-participation in that. And there's something about, of course, on a Taurus level and the ocean and the connection with the ocean and our feeling good in ourselves really stands out a lot. So when we go to the ocean, things just they work more slowly. There's the beach. There's a greater pleasure of just being present there. And so, and people like have greater like pleasure and joy just being there at the beach. And my experiences and throughout my whole life, just it's such a draw to go to the beach with, in part because it just feels so good a lot of the time just to be there even if even if it's like a little bit gray and not so sunny, people still go to the beach to be near the ocean, to be have that physical connection with that sacred place, which is our the Mother Ocean that we was essentially all interconnected. There's no like if you were to look at the planet Earth, all the waters, all the oceans are interconnected. There's no even if you have to go all the way down to the tip of South America and around, or the tip of South Africa and around, all those oceans and everything is connected. There's no separation. So it's this one larger, like planet-wide ocean, if you will, that is just divided into the various oceans, like the Pacific and Atlantic. So this is part of Earth's bounty. So it really connects us to Taurus.
So yeah, beautiful.
Um,
So we've talked about this a little bit already, but just this idea of how healthy Taurus is grounded, stable, able to receive. Receiving is such a key for Taurus, and probably the most one of the most important things that is maybe overlooked. And because when we do healthy receiving, receiving with gratitude, not from expectation, not from entitlement, not from, oh, you should give that to me because feel like you should give that to me. No, for no other reason, coming more from a entitled place. So it's really about receiving and embodying and savoring the beauty and pleasure of life. And so receiving the gifts that are given to us every day, being in that place of gratitude. And that is healthy receivership, is when we're from a place of genuine gratitude. So this is about growing and evolving the ability to discover and master embodied aliveness, blissful pleasure, ecstatic life force energy, and deeply savoring the gifts that life has to offer. So this is something that you want to consider cultivating. What could you do that allows you to feel that you're in experiencing the gratitude for what it is that you have going on in your life at this time?
yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, so it kind of connects into this whole theme that we've been talking about of the physical realm, Earth's bounty, but also in the human to human interaction. And you touched upon it in a previous slide. So it was something like, okay, so this may apply to also Mercury and Taurus, but the Taurus archetype is also the importance of the physical connection and others. It's like so that communication, the physical communication. Mercury stands for communication in the mind, but Taurus, the moon, is also bringing this up as well. So Taurus typically expresses itself through body language, either by touch or speaking through the body, with minimal or more efficient use of the voice. Thus, of course, the voice is used more for pleasure, like song or poems, things like that. In our current civilization, there's greater focus on the mind and remote communication, and less emphasis on the physical connections and communication. Um, Except maybe perhaps a lot of times in entertainment where there's that with dance, comedy, and other things. Um, In-person meetings can succeed when other forms may not, especially in feeling the person through all the senses. So it's like that connection we have. It's like kind of getting a better feel for the person energetically that is at times, whether it's a handshake or a hug, and you're sitting down with them, you're talking with them on some level, and it's a very, very different experience, worlds apart than even if you're on Zoom or on the phone. This is very, I feel like very torn physical connection there. So it's through those handshakes and hugs, other physical forms of greetings, and maintaining those connections with others. And so Taurus puts it back onto the altar. And when we had as I so we were talking just before this video, and how the pandemic, we got completely uh social distancing, all the masks, all the things that got disrupted during that time. Well, it's like we're social creatures, and there's that part of us that got cut off. And in this subject that we're talking about here with Taurus, we need that. So this is something that's going to be really, really, is always going to be really important, that it'll never necessarily go away. You can do as much of you know, uh, you want to download into a computer, you want to have your consciousness out there, but this is part of what makes us human. And you can't, I don't know how much you could really replicate that in say, an artificial intelligent form of some kind. Maybe thousands of years in the future, maybe in like an android like Data from Star Trek or something.
I was just
Maybe there could be maybe there could be something like that, which would be amazing. But in lieu of that, it's really important to feel all that, whether even in the voice, with songs and poetry, and being able to talk about things that are pleasurable, and connecting into that, to taste things, to smell things, to touch things, to hear things. All of that is really, really critical. And for Taurus, it's like you know, the apple pie of it all for
yes.
uh, for Taurus.
I love this, and thinking about too how when we hug each other, they have found that it increases oxytocin, which is the feel-good, pleasurable hormone in the body. If you hug for like 8 to 10 seconds, that it'll activate the oxytocin. So just a little quick hug doesn't necessarily do it, but these are the things
Right,
when we touch, when we have that physical connection, is that it activates things in our body. Plus, we maybe are also what I love you're saying here is we're communicating, but it's with not with words. It's communicating with um, our body and our being that is maybe we don't even know how to give words to. So this is just really amazing to consider, and also consider if you're a quick hugger or you don't like to hug, maybe consider during this Taurus full moon to do a longer hug, a full body embrace. Activate
right.
the Aquarian realm that's already in your body. Even if you don't have Taurus on your natal chart, it's we all encounter these energies. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Um, all right, let's look at the chakra system here you've got going on, Kaylin.
So, steps to greater pleasure and happiness. And so, what we don't want to do, and what we do want to do, is we want to have less thinking, more feeling. We want to have less frowning, more smiling. We want to have less talking, more listening. Not that doesn't mean you can't do those other things, just do them less and do the other ones more. Less judging, more accepting, less complaining, more appreciation. And that's really the where gratitude and really being able to receive. And when you practice receiving with gratitude, then the universe gives you more. It just keeps giving you more. It's just so amazing how that happens. It's magical. And then less fear and more love. So how do we operate? How do we um, focus more on the things that actually help us to feel pleasure and happiness? And this is I got to have this experience in Canyon de Chelly in 2013 and this rainbow capture. And it was one of those pleasurable, like, here we are in Canyon de Chelly. We were attending a wedding. And anyway, kindness given, received, and witnessed is sacred pleasure. So I think we're going to wrap this up with another couple quotes.
Yes.
Yes. So cultivating divine pleasure, the sacred divine pleasure you seek is seeking you. So if you recognize that and you are consciously seeking it, it will find you. And then these quotes from Rumi said it a different way. He said, "What you seek is seeking you." I just added divine pleasure in there. And then there, there are many ways to the divine. I have chosen the ways of song, dance, and laughter. So basically, we can get to the place of the divine when we are allowing ourselves to experience the pleasure of life, whether that's through song, dance, laughter, whatever it might be. There might be other ways that we do that. So when we allow ourselves to really invite that and embrace that, then we're cultivating the experience of pleasure, divine pleasure that is our birthright.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
So that's what we got for you.
yeah, so hopefully everyone has a very pleasurable Taurus full moon on November 5th of 2025.
Yeah,
Bye.
go out and experience that. Oh, you had something else to share?
Oh, no, I was just going to say
Oh.
bye, but you had something else. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah, go out and especially if the weather's cooperating, go out to experience that full moon. Hopefully there'll be a break in the clouds or you get a really clear sky. You can really absorb that amazing soma energy and be in that liminal space and really connect into the pleasure of just of being present in that space. So yeah,
And
all the more power to you all.
yeah, and even if you can't see the moon being out under the sky, even if it's cloudy, you'll still get that energy. So as long as it's not pouring rain,
Right.
go outside and at least for a few minutes and get some of that good full moon light. So we'll catch you.
It'd be liquid moonlight if it's raining.
There you go. Exactly.
Yes.
All right. So thank you everyone, and we'll see you back for the next full moon happening in December.
Take care, everyone.